Tonight, a special edition of the new music as we take a look at the 1985 Carnival in Trinidad and Tobago.
Now shake it up, time to make it up. Come on, enjoy yourself. Hey, hey, hey. Come on, enjoy yourself. Let me ask a question. When last you went to party and the music rip, oh, oh. Long time. When last you in a party and the high strip, you, oh, oh. Long time. We gon' jump all night long. Mash up the party, touch the party. Well, the party, when last you went till morning. Oh, oh, no time. When last you party, and one more party.
Nowhere in the Western Hemisphere is there a celebration as all-encompassing, both from a social and cultural standpoint, as that which happens each winter in Trinidad. For more than 2 weeks leading up to Ash Wednesday, the entire island becomes Carnival. It is a time for all Trinis living abroad to come home, and for those that can't make it, a time of homesickness and hopes to participate next year.
Party people, let your body move.
There's still raging debate as to whether or not Carnival is a bacchanal to exorcise the demons of the previous year's self-indulgence, or a great cultural festival dating back to the early ruling French aristocracy and the days of slavery. But whatever it is, it's infectious and throws Trinidad, normally a business-oriented island dealing in oil, into a frenzy. From the parking lot fetes that go on until dawn, to downtown Port of Spain in the height of the afternoon.
One thing that's almost impossible to do in Port of Spain during Carnival is get somewhere on time. But you get used to it.
Carnival is an incredible mix of participatory events. The panorama competition, at which steel bands from across the country compete for top honors. Juve morning that sees people greet the dawn dabbed in mud as they reenact the carnival of old. Pretty Mas, a great costume party for which people, even in this year's recession, paid up to hundreds of dollars to become part of a band that can involve as many as 4,000 celebrants. And Dimanche Gras, the Sunday evening festival that crowns the Calypso monarch and picks the king and queen of Carnival.
Contestant number 1, Moonlight Phosphorescence. In the King of Carnival finals.
While it's taken for granted by the natives, the biggest thing an outsider like myself finds is that everywhere there is music, music, music. From dawn until dawn, Trinidad pulsates with the rhythms of the calypsos that just kind of grab you by the hips and take you away. And while he didn't react in quite this way, even the Pope was treated to the backbeat in a calypso written to honor his visit to Trinidad mere days before the start of Carnival.
So let's get together and welcome the pilgrim folk. He has brought us blessings, expectation and hope. Shout the glad tidings and sing hallelujah. Our Lord is gone up but left us his bigger hair. He is the living memory of our Lord of all. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Our Lord is gone up but left us his bigger hair. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Our Lord is gone up but left us his bigger hair.
Still to come on the new music, More from Carnival 1985, including the Calypso Queen competition, Panorama, and more.
The appetite laws were made just because man want to exploit man. Wickedness and greed will only succeed to further exploitation. Man ensured his destruction by making guns and bombs and nuclear ammunition. Oh, in his quest for power, man destroys man. It is a shame to say that is nature's plan. Last night you went hunting, you boast that you caught a deer and a porcupine. It was lovely today, so you went fishing. You had a wonderful time, because nature provides fish in the sea and wild animals on land, Lord. The one who causing destruction is man.
If you visit Carnival for just a few short days, as I did, you get the impression that all the island listens to is calypso music. Further investigation proves that it's a seasonal phenomenon, indelibly linked to Carnival. Late in the year, the Calypsonians go into the studio to record their best efforts in a bid to become either Road March King or Calypso Monarch. That's reflected in the record stores, where the top international artists, who represent the bulk of sales all year, take a back seat to the native Calypsonians. They dominate the front racks during Carnival, and sales of Calypso skyrocket at this time of year.
But the brag and boast all in America, how to win road march, they have the formula. They said, buddy, old, he just can't make again until I can back and then
For weeks before Carnival, all of the Calypsonians gather in tents, sponsored by the accepted greats of the musical form. This is their time to shine, and a chance for Calypso fans, which means Trinidad's entire population, to check out all of their favorites.
Making movements, whining like a soapback, baby. If I wanna wine, leave me let me wine. I cannot resist the tempo, I'm feeling it in my big toe. This bumsy is mine, oh Lord, and I feel the wine. If you cannot take the jamming, I will see you later, darling.
Not only do the tents bring out the established Calypsonians, but they also provide a showcase for some of the newer talent.
Every year, in the tents, you usually have like audition, and they try to get the best of the newcomers, which are mostly youths, and then you try to push them forward. I just want to spread the thing, spread it. Let somebody feel the feeling I just feel, because I just really feel good.
An interesting guest at Shadow's tent was Lady Complainer, a native of New York City who represents a newfound international interest in the island's indigenous musical form.
I am a woman with good intentions. When I have a man, he must understand that I will be ready when he wants to love me. But first he must love me for me and only me. Don't love for me money, don't love for me money. If you want to love me for only me.
Well, this is like the Royal Albert Hall, the Grand Prix of Calypso. You know, if you can prove yourself here, that's it. And I guess it was something that I wanted to do in my heart. I wanted to prove to people that somebody from outside of Trinidadian culture could pick up on it and get into it and love it so much that they could actually do it. And knock wood, I think that's what people here have been feeling. At least that's the response I've been getting from people.
They believe you?
I think so.
While in Carnival years past, the Calypso Monarch or the Road March King has almost always been male, there is a growing involvement among women in the Calypso end of Carnival.
Let me tell you about the bee that has come into our country. Well, it just came and stung all of my people, I see. Well, the worst was when them politicians got stung. They started doing more crazy things. country just went bankrupt in a mysterious way. People hear about the confusion and they whisper foul play. Well, I say we have no national consciousness. With resources, I say we are blessed. We've got to produce some other how, cause all the oil money we have done.
While sensual songs about women are prevalent in the male calypsos, the lady calypsonians don't reciprocate. On the whole, they're more politically conscious than the men and sing about women's rights and social ills rather than partying.
A Trinidad ain't rich no more. We are just another little country weak for. Trinidad gone through the back door. We have no money like we used to have before. No more. La 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 la. La 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 la.
It was nice to see that the world's best-known calypsonian, Sparrow, lent his support to the event.
The women are right in there with everybody else. And sometimes they beat the pants off the men.
Sparrow, there's been some complaints this year that many of the male calypsos are simply about smut. It seems to me that the women sing about more serious issues.
Well, maybe the women are more serious-minded than us. And some people say that we sing on the women all the time. But who are we to sing on? We got to sing on women, because they sing on us men.
As well as a guest appearance, Sparrow also had the honor of presenting the crown to this year's Calypso Queen.
He started running. He thought it was a joke because we didn't see no smoke. She bought it from Buddha Ramsing. Where is your ladder? I really hose and let for the water to our sheep. And if you hear she fire, fire, every wire, wire. Ay, ay, ay. Oh, yeah, Lord. Fire, fire, every fire. So, now they put your upper. It was so.
Coming up on the new music, more from Carnival 1985, including the Calypso Monarch competition, Pretty Mas, and more. While the most popular of calypsos serve as a backbeat for jumping up, whining and jamming, in the long run, the escapist songs take a backseat to the ones that follow calypso's original traditions as a forum for social statements.
But liberation is more than just a day. To be totally free, my people, we must be more constructive, more concerned, and a lot more productive. We will walk in freedom road. Yes, we will walk in freedom road. We don't tear down attitude, we must shake off that load. Walk in freedom road.
Some artists manage a delicate balance between boogie and commentary. People like Blue Boy, who became very popular last year with Lucy in the Savannah, a calypso about a girl who loses her head and her morals at carnival time.
How she feel like a movie star. Oh, yeah. So she not coming off the stage. Blood, what she gonna do next? What she gonna do next? While massa music have dust flying, somebody shout, girl, the police come and run. What she gonna do next? What she gonna do next? Oh, yo, yo, she say they're joking. Man, here she laughing, ha, ha. Telling the police for real. Man, she telling Pong Pong. She say, I love the man. Pong Pong. She say, I want a man. For Carnival Monday, for Carnival Tuesday, and it was Wednesday. He jamming Friday.
Lucy, I saw this television show in New York called I Love Lucy, right? And I was trying to picture her behavior in Trinidad for Carnival, going across the stage. Because every year, I observe, like, if you could observe this year, if you could pay attention to it, from the hospital to the Savannah, the reaction of the ladies, right? They, when going across the stage playing mass, they don't want no partners. They want to be loose. This is why I say Lucy in the Savannah, she don't have no partner, right? Then you notice the part I said with Lucy on Color TV, Lucy enjoying scenery. There's another part we're saying that's because TTT and all these cameras on stage now, you know, and it's the whole scene I extracted there was Lucy behavior with how these ladies behave in the Savannah. Lucy come for Carnival. And this would be her type of reaction in song then. This is how I got this together.
Carnival Monday, Carnival Tuesday, even Ash Wednesday, she jamming all day.
We managed to become fast friends with Blue Boy over the course of Carnival, and even happened to take part in his drive to become Calypso Monarch. Our cameraman, Tony Wannamaker, a past Armed Forces cadet, joined Blue Boy on stage to play a U.S. Marine for a Calypso about American military intervention.
How visible is peace on earth between every nation? Well, 8,000 years will come and go, but it's a burden she will have to die eternally. The nuclear this and nuclear that is not to my interest, for life is much more beautiful with joy and happiness. Leaders of the world should now be preaching as they love with love. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, yo, 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 yo. 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 Yes, Lord, how they pass. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Yes, Lord, how they pass. Presently, I am confused. I do like the attitude. One day will come. Jaja gonna be with them. Hey, hey, hey. Yo 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 yo, yo 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 yo, yo 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 yo, yeah Lord, how they, yo 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 yo, yo 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 yo. Well, wars were fought with men being killed, leaving loved ones in tears. All because of rulers and yes. Oh, I wish that I could testify on Judgment Day. Hey, 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 hey. Retreat, I say, to mollify. Please exercise caution. For fighting only help my friend to uniting, I say, is how to preserve the future. Hey, 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 hey. Oh, yo, 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 yo. 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 Dear Lord, how they... Oh, yo, 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 yo. Oh, yo, 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 yo. Dear Lord, how they... Presently I am confused. So like they had, one day will come.
Among Calypso purists, songs with social commentary are really the only ones to be taken seriously. William Doyle Marshall, a writer with the Trinidad Guardian, who also lives in Canada, particularly likes the calypsos of Black Stalin. He appreciates Stalin's ability to use meaningful lyrics in an entertaining form.
His friends, fans came to him and said, look, everybody doing it. We want you to do it. Do some party thing, you know, give me a breakdown, give me a jam. So he said, okay. He went and he sat down and he started to write a song. But in writing the song, he started to think, you know, how am I going to write this thing? When problems. People can't get food, people can't get work, the world is unfair, injustice happening in South Africa and around the world. How could I do? So he went back, he said, well, look, when all of these things get straight, I will finish the song about Dorothy, which is what the song was supposed to be. It's still called Dorothy, but he goes around it. And the chorus now gives the jam beat, you know, the jam, but the messages are in there that the world is not straight.
It appears Doyle Marshall wasn't the only one impressed with Stalin's work on Dorothy, as it was the song that crowned Stalin Calypso Monarch of 1985.
I take up the challenge just to prove to the lot. I decide to show them I, Stalin, could write a smut about this Dorothy woman who come down to the island and we happening with a chief when we come out the steel band. Look, I done hire two girls to put on some show thing. Was to come on stage and show how Dorothy moving. But it's a wrong thing I do it. So when I strike up the first note, suppose Jaja punish me with a stroke in my one throat. Because the Ku Klux Klan office still Alabama, and in Brixton, England, my people still under pressure. Anytime I see that South Africans are free, yes, I go in and finish the whole damn Calypso about Dorothy. How I jam she, and she jam me. How we back, brother, and we roll back. But once my people struggling with so much children like back, they tell me, man, wait, Dorothy, wait, Dorothy, wait.
Still ahead in the new music, more from Trinidad's Carnival 1985, including Panorama and more.
This is one of the most exciting nights of Carnival. It's the semi-finals of Panorama, at which 16 of Trinidad's top steel bands who have been practicing for the last year for Carnival will go at it head-to-head to decide the 8 finalists who will meet in the Panorama Finals on Saturday evening.
For 6 days before and during Carnival, some very strange-looking vehicles take to the road in downtown Port of Spain. They are the pan carts. The traveling stands for the steel drums, the Trini invention that has become a deep-rooted part of their heritage. Though the practice of banging on steel cans had been around since the turn of the century, it wasn't until the Americans brought in thousands of oil drums to supply their naval base at Chaguaramas Bay that it was discovered the drums could be tuned to different notes. To this day, the ability to make and tune a steel pan remains a rare gift, though some modern technologies have allowed a greater degree of precision in this traditional art.
Is this something that you have to study for a long, long time to learn how to do properly? Is it something that is done by ear, only few people can do?
Yeah, only few people could do it. Take you about 4 or 5 years to really get where you want to go.
You considered a master in Trinidad?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
No, I was...
You're just good, but you're not a master.
That's right.
Steel drums and calypso are inseparable. For weeks leading up to Carnival, the various bands practice an arrangement of a calypso they hope will carry them to the title of Panorama Champions.
For Panorama, which is the big thing, as you know, for steel band, you want to come off with the best, your best arrangement. Whatever the arranger said, okay, we're going to go with this year, they work on it. It's a case of finding something that's adaptable, something that's creative, something that'll make the band look good and sound good so that people will remember them. I think it's basically a sort of marriage. Calypso and steel band go hand in hand. They are known as the musical expressions of Trinidad and Tobago, and as such, they sort of link one another. I mean, if you tell me a steel band is coming from Trinidad to perform in Toronto or Montreal or Quebec or what have you, I expect them to play Calypso. And if they don't play Calypso, it's a letdown. I mean, unquestionably, I don't care what classics they play. And this is a natural expression by any Trinidadian. Yes, they would listen to the classics and say, hey, that's good, that's nice, but Calypso is mine. Steel band is mine. They belong to one another. And that's it.
The steel bands reach right into the hearts of Trinis. In earlier days, the Invaders, Renegades, Desperados, and the like were street gangs, representatives of the grassroots community who are often involved in quite violent clashes. In the years that followed, they turned in their razors and cutlasses for steel pans and sticks and had their clashes with music. Not only are the pan orchestras a form of entertainment, they are the heroes of the community. Residents stay up all night with their band as they rehearse their calypso with fanatic intensity.
Yes, I love that the people have the thing that they're really doing, because the culture is involved, so they love the culture. They don't necessarily do it because they need money. They do it for the love of doing it. All this is love. A fella will stay here 5, 6 hours. You really can't pay him. He's doing it because he loves to do it.
Nowhere is the sense of community around a steel band more evident than with Desperados. From the ghettos of the hills of Laventille, they attract the most devout following.
The ghetto isn't what it always seems to be. Certainly it is poor, but it is not without a sense of self. And that's the critical thing about it. So that when, for instance, Desperados comes down to play, the entire community comes out with them. And they defy the police barriers, the police horses, because they must go over the stage with that band. Is everybody in the band is a hero. And then it's the way in which they say, look, we wish to be looked upon, we wish to be regarded. And that's why they play so well.
The steel band's talents are honed to such a razor's edge that only a few points separate the top 5 contenders. In fact, this year's competition was so close that Whitcoe Desperados shared top honors with 1984's champions, the Amoco Renegades. Some of the steel bands had the added bonus of support from the Calypsonian whose song they decided to adopt. Crazy, whose Suck Me Sukuya became the road march of 1985, was on hand as flag waver for past Panorama champions, Catelli All-Stars. The All-Stars returned the favor a night later as they joined Crazy's Sukuyam Band on the road for the ultimate all-night party, Juve Morning.
Every Juve morning I usually come out, you know, and support the bands, but this is the first time that I'm playing with a band. You know, I'm playing with the band because they're playing my song. Right. Otherwise, I wasn't playing.
Juve Morning is one of the most incredible experiences I've ever been through, even the second time around. In Trini terms, it's ugly mass, where participants dress up in old clothes or smear themselves with mud or grease. They play the devils of the night or exercise their freedom of speech in costumes that mock the political system. Everywhere there is dancing and music, provided both by steel bands and rolling sound systems that boast 5,000 watts of power.
We've got 2 generators supplying the power to about 7,000 watts of current alone, just to give power for this truck. And we hope it works out all right. It sounds good so far.
It's going to be loud, is it?
Yeah, we hope so.
You can't describe the feeling of ringing out the night and bringing in the dawn with an entire city full of revelers. You just have to be there. Coming up on the new music, more from Carnival 1985, including Moss and Peter Minshall. While Juve Morning represents traditions that have remained virtually unchanged for more than a century, the other side of the costume celebration constantly evolves. Pretty Mas, as it's known, involves the latest fabrics and innovative design to try and make each year more spectacular than the one before. If Juve is the Old West of Trinidad, then Pretty Mas is the Hollywood. And nowhere is the glamour more evident than in the spectacle of Dimanche Gras, in the competition for King and Queen of Carnival.
And now, the junior queen of Carnival, Sonia Hamelsmith, a 13-year-old student of St. Joseph Convent. Her costume, Oriental Fantasy.
The kings and queens are put forward by the various mass bands and are the focal point of the parade across the Queen's Park Savannah stage in the annual mass band competition.
Some of the real hives of activity around Carnival time are the various mass camps in Port of Spain, at which hundreds of people toil untold hours to put the look of the band together. I think it's safe to say that none of the people working here will get any sleep until Tuesday. As a matter of fact, when's the last time you got to sleep?
From Tuesday.
And that's now Friday, so that's 3 days.
Sure.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, sure, it's worth it because it's a sacrifice, and the sacrifice is to be a winner. So the sleepless nights comes in automatically. You know, it's something like we all do enjoy working for. You know, you don't work to reach the second place now, you work to reach first.
The catchphrase of the 2 actual days of Carnival, Monday and Tuesday, is play your mas. Mas being your masquerade when you put on a costume.
It's traditional now for us at this time to let our hair down.
You can do what you want, just let loose, that's it. Everybody get together that time. Big, small, rich, poor.
Carefree day, no responsibilities, just laughter and fun for 2 days.
Fun, fun, and more fun. Lots of license. You can do anything. You can get anything.
Jason Griffith, who has won many awards for his design work, bases his bands around a traditional sailor theme.
Comes up to form a crown graced by baby rays.
You had to pay.
Charlie, the Star-Kissed Tuna. I've been wanting to meet you.
I could remember when I was a boy, I was longing to get big to play sailor, and this is how the tradition go here in Trinidad. That a young guy, his first love really is sailor. He might branch off. He might play a historical mass. He might play Indian. He might play dragon, devil, whatever it is. But he always strike out first in sailor.
Stephen Lee Hyung, who won 3 consecutive Best Band titles in the 1970s, chose a more freeform approach this year with his masquerade theme. Alvon Spicer, a graphic design artist, led one of the smaller bands in Carnival, Arctic Follies. But whether their band sported 100 people or 4,000, the leaders were in the mass camps day and night, right in the thick of construction. In fact, in most cases, they gave up their houses to the cause. Edmund and Lil Hart, who presented Time for a Tale in 1985, were celebrating their 25th anniversary of mass making.
I suppose the Trinidadians will tell you that it's in your blood, huh? And I guess it is, partly. My husband has been a masquerader longer than I. He has been playing mass, I should say, from a child. I started off with him, 25 years ago, designing for him, and I'm still here doing it now. I don't know for how many years again, but so long as I can do it, I guess I will, because there's so much pleasure got out of it.
Though Trinidad was in the middle of a recession, the bands were nonetheless spectacular, and the competition was quite tight. In the final analysis, though, the winner turned out to be, for our second straight carnival, Raul Garib's band.
A terrific feeling. You would never believe unless you win it.
The new music will be right back after these messages with more from Carnival 1985. For most Trinidadians, playing mass is simply putting on a costume and jumping up with the band. That's an attitude that has survived easily for more than 100 years. But some people see it differently. Peter Minshall, an international theater designer, believes Carnival is street theater and should reflect some mystical part of Trinidad's past. To that end, he created a trilogy of bands based around a book he wrote titled Kalaloo and the Crowd. It told the story of a mythical young man and the forces of evil that sought to destroy him. His characters, Man Crab, a monster that demonstrated man's technology gone mad, and the beautifully costumed Kalaloo won Minshall King of Carnival 2 years in a row. As an added bonus, his Bird of Paradise also won his Queen last year. We looked forward to his entries this year, but due to a delay in design, they weren't ready for competition. The first two bands of Minshall's trilogy, The River and Callaloo, were beautiful pieces of theater. But the critics tore him apart, deploring the ritualistic painting of the white costumes, and said what Minshall did was not mass. Minshall's creations may have gone against the grain of accepted carnival practice, but they represented a deep commitment on his part to the island's heritage.
Ever since Paradise Lost, which was the first band, I got into a fierce argument with someone in the mass camp over a certain costume that wasn't coming out the right way. And one of the people standing around said, "Minshall, Minshall, calm down. Is only mass." If I was in a frightful temper before, I then really exploded. I said, that's what's wrong. That's exactly what's wrong about how we think. This thing that you call only is of you and about you. It is you.
This year, Minshall completed the trilogy with his band, The Golden Calabash. It was actually two bands rolled into one. The evil side, the Princes of Darkness, and the good, the Lords of Light. The most obvious difference about this band was the incredible colors.
Minshall caused an outrage when he brought monochromes with Dance Macabre, and a lot of people were ambivalent and contra to the idea of having an all-white band, right? Saying that, well, Carnival is color. And this year he just decided, well, after the discipline of bringing an entire band of 3,000 people, entirely in white, made from entirely the same material, just dealing with textures and shapes and forms to make the difference, right? This year, run the color, blash out.
The Golden Calabash completes the story of Callaloo and de Crab, but in true Minshall style, the ending is left open to interpretation.
All those good people from before and all of those bad people from before have now collected themselves into two bands. And in a celebration of an old calypso refrain that was sung about a steel band clash in Port of Spain in the 50s between two bands, it goes, and when the two bands clash, partner, if you see cutlash, never me again, jump up in a steel band in Port of Spain.
Though he didn't win the band competition, Minshall did place second. But more importantly, he turned the tide of the critics, who finally applauded his visions of the mass.
It's very cheering. It feels, well, it feels good. You know, it really, wonderful.
Does that kind of say to you that perhaps for the last few years people have lost the original concepts of mass?
Yes, I do feel that one can't call it the original meaning of Carnival. I mean, there is change. And I have felt these past years a sense of a me and them situation. But again, if you look under the surface, there are not, I think I'm a kind of, hopefully not dying, but certainly at the moment, rare species in that I am the only artist band leader around.
There are rumors that the Golden Calabash was Minshall's last band. Even he has said that after the trilogy he would bow out. But even if he doesn't come back, he has influenced the direction of future bands. and will always remain committed to the pure traditions of Carnival.
The poem, the picture, the song is only water drawn from the well of the people. And it must be given back to them in a cup of beauty so that they may drink, and in drinking, understand themselves. Federico Garcia Lorca.
That's this edition of The New Music. For Jeannie Becker and Daniel Richler, I'm J.D. Roberts.